Welcome to Vision Pros, the show all about spatial computing, visionOS, and getting work done on the Apple Vision Pro. I'm Tim Chatton, host of the show.
I had a blood clean the other week for a blood condition that I have, which means that I clot a lot, right? And so this is quite a frequent thing, unfortunately. I decided to wear my Apple Vision Pro and try that and just see how that worked. One of the things that I just thought was incredible was the tracking, right, of your hands and how subtle you can be with your movements.
Welcome back to another episode of Vision Pros. We are joined in this episode by Sigmund Judge, one of the hosts of the Magic Rays of Light podcast, a podcast all about the Apple TV and Apple TV Plus service. Sigmund began his Apple TV coverage in 2015 and has gone on to cover Apple, tvOS, and Apple Originals across video, written articles, and podcasts. Sigmund is based in London. In this episode, we discuss his journey to Cupertino, where he picked up his Apple Vision Pro. We also discuss using the Apple Vision Pro in a hospital environment with limited hand mobility. There's also great discussion on using the Apple Vision Pro as an entertainment device and what some of the best experiences are so far. As a reminder, you can support the podcast over at visionpros.fm/Patreon and subscribe to either Patreon or an Apple Podcasts. By supporting the show, you'll get early access to both Vision Pros and iPad Pros. My great thanks to everyone that supports the show. With that, here's my discussion with Sigmund. Enjoy.
Welcome to the podcast, Sigmund.
Oh, thanks for having me, Tim.
Well, thank you for being here, and I'm excited to dive in our chat today. You've traveled a long way to procure your Apple Vision Pro all the way to Cupertino. I'm excited to hear about that adventure a little bit and how we're using it productivity-wise and entertainment-wise, because for those that may not know, you do the Magic Rays of Light podcast, and part of your job is actually watching entertainment, which I love.
Let's just get into it real quick and say that as an entertainment device, I am so over the moon with this. I've always been a bit of a TV addict, right? So
Sure.
All those years ago, after loading videos onto my iPod video and trying to watch movies on that and then in flight, I feel like this is a big step up in so many different ways. I have a genuine love for technology, but I have a genuine love for the creative elements that really kind of drive our culture, right? And so the marrying up of those both, I think the reason why I got into Apple so quickly and so passionately. This is just another... it's not even a generational leap, is it? It is another world putting the Apple Vision Pro on when it comes to watching films, some of the immersive entertainment, which we're going to get into, I'm sure. I'm just genuinely blown away, and yes, it was worth the long round trip. It really was, Tim.
Excellent. Yeah. I'm blown away too. We'll get into it. Yesterday, family's out of town. I took the rare opportunity to spend the entire day watching the Lord of the Rings Extended Edition trilogy in Apple Vision Pro, all in a single day. Woke up at like 9 a.m., got started, and it was a glorious experience. 4K HDR, first time. I think it's HDR at least. First time watching that upgrade from the DVD days that I remember so fondly.
Oh wow. Wow, so you've really, that is a step up.
Yeah,
even skipping HD.
I bought them back in the day in HD. I'm sure I've watched them maybe on my iPad or whatever, but I don't really have control over the TV in my house. So yeah, it's been a while since I've actually had like a good. I used to have like a home theater projector back in the day, but I don't have space for that anymore. So it's been a while since I've had a big screen experience with Lord of the Rings. And yeah.
I think listeners might be a little bit concerned that you're in a sedentary position all day. So were you picking up your screen and taking it with you and going for that general kind of walk to get your stand?
I got my stand. My stand's in. The Apple Watch told me to get up, and I walked around a little bit. I discovered the cool thing of if you stand up when you're in the Apple TV environment, or any environment for that instance, it'll get rid of the environment for you automatically, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
And when you sit back down in your chair, instantly the environment pops right up as you're sitting down. It remembers where you were sitting, I think, and is like, boom, you're back in it as you're sitting down. It's great. But and I got a new light seal yesterday, so I've been trying out my 13W down from the 25W, and I must say, much closer to your face. It's a much smaller light seal as far as how far the displays are, so my field of vision's much better. Comfort's a little bit better with it, and I'm finding I'm gravitating towards the solo band. At first, it's like the dual loop was the better one for me, but I find the solos my go-to these days.
Interesting, because it just doesn't give me the support that I need, and I was getting red marks like every time I was using it, which isn't a great thing if you're doing like video interviews and different calls and stuff, right?
Because I was talking about the dual loop. The top band is like way far up, like it's not middle, and it's so weird to me.
See, this is the problem, I think, right? And this might be controversial, at least for my head, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is how it worked out. I struggled. And then I actually looked at the documentation and I looked at the promo videos carefully on how that strap is being used, right? And in fact, you have to pull down the back strap so that it goes below that kind of like indent before the back of your head goes outward.
Okay.
And that's where it's supposed to
So that's where it's supposed to be. So I may need to try this again. So right before it starts to curve upwards, that's where that strap should be. And you tighten that up pretty tight, and then you do the top strap.
Yeah, and I would say even try and keep the top strap a little looser, right?
Okay.
And then it comes off and on nice and easy. And
so you don't adjust the top strap every time, is what you're saying?
No.
You don't.
In fact, I don't have to adjust any of the straps. I can literally just slip it on and off, and it's
even the back strap.
Mm-hmm.
You're not okay.
No,
that just seems weird to me. It seems like it would be way too loose. If it
I may have a weird head. You know?
Maybe.
I've heard worse.
Yeah, but it's funny. Yeah, I do find I am switching back and forth still between the two. Sometimes like I want the solo, sometimes I want the dual, and I haven't found like the perfect strap yet. I'm curious if third parties will make other options. I do want like a more supported option like PSVR 2 does, but I also like the fabric things that Apple's doing, because you can be on a chair or a bed and lay back, which would be uncomfortable on the more supported straps.
Now, a question I have for you. I'm already switching this around, right? Because we've got a list of things. We
have a long list of.
But that whole day, how are you eating snacks? Have you found a trick yet as to not to trigger? Because there was that advert, right? There was that advert with someone watching Napoleon on the biggest screen.
They're throwing popcorn there.
Throwing popcorn into his mouth, which I think is a giveaway. Because what I found was that you can actually go into accessibility features, just a very quick tip, and remove, say, your left hand, right, from being it. So for movie watching mode, if you're wanting a snack, that's what to do.
I was not aware you could turn off one of the two hands. So like, I would do
and
right
then
hand.
And then you're absolutely sorted.
Okay, that's really good to know, because the trick I was learning was instead of one piece of popcorn, you want like two, so you're using both your index and your second finger, which doesn't trigger it as often.
I mean, that works.
Yeah, it's like, So that's what I was firstly. But that's a good tip with the accessibility, because that hand tracking just goes off at inopportune times sometimes. And the pro tip too is you want to do the Mount Hood when you're having a drink and stuff, because Mount Hood lets you do the 50% environment, so you can see the table next to you. Apple TV, The theater, not so much. My cat was watching me all day, which was she was just sitting there on the couch, like looking at me, like, what's he doing? But yeah, it was comfortable for the whole day. I took some breaks. Finished at like 11 p.m. at night. Started around 9, so I had some breaks in the middle for some chores and stuff. But anyways, we got way off topic here. The first thing I just want to mention is another just tip for Vision Pro usage. Make sure to go to settings on your Vision Pro, and in OpticID, you can select your iPhone to enable OpticID to work whenever your iPhone's been unlocked in the past hour and nearby, except for on reboots. So this means you never have to deal with your passcode hardly ever unless you do a hard reboot on your headset, which is really cool.
Okay, that's very cool.
Which is, it's just like, it's such a nice thing. It's like, it reminds me of the Apple Watch unlocking your iPhone a bit, kind of that connection there. And it's like one of the first direct connections between iPhone and Apple Vision Pro that I've seen in the OS so far. So let's dive into kind of your journey of getting the Apple Vision Pro. So you are in England, I believe. Is that accurate?
I am. I'm in London, and I guess for any Apple TV listeners, I am probably about a 20-minute walk from where Ted Lasso's fictional football ground is in Crystal Palace.
So you need to rent that place out and watch the show in your Apple Vision Pro sitting with the pass-through mode on in there.
Yeah, if I really wanted to step into that ground, right. If I really wanted to, but I try to avoid it unless I'm on the away end.
So, tell me about going to Cupertino and picking this up at the worldwide corporate headquarters. Yeah,
so this wasn't like anything in conjunction with Apple. This is a fan of the of technology and the different shifts that we've been through with Apple, kind of wanting to experience this in a different way. So, of course, the big launch was in New York, which would have been a far shorter flight.
Yes, that's where Tim Cook was, and the guy from How I Met Your Mother was there as well.
Yes. And my plan and my idea was to go to Cupertino to pick it up from the Apple Park Visitor Center store, and just kind of see what that experience was like, right? Because, of course, literally 5 minutes away, walk, is where everything is happening, right?
Yes.
Where all of these secrets have been kept for so long. And if you've ever had the opportunity to go to Cupertino, you'll know that it is Apple Village out there. Pretty much any restaurant you go into, almost everyone's going to be working somewhere at Apple. There are secret buildings with just the odd little logo that you see as you get past the bushes and the greenery, and it's a real experience if you haven't had the opportunity to visit, even if it isn't dubbed DC. I would highly recommend it. The experience was really cool. I mean, I stayed with some friends, and so I had my Apple Vision Pro delivered to me. Delivered to where I was staying.
Yeah.
In California, and then I went first thing in the morning to the visitor center. Thought I got there early enough. I didn't. And about midday that day, I was able to have the whole try-on experience and everything else, because my fear was to have an Apple Vision Pro shipped to me and then the 3D face scan not be right, the light seal not fit, something go wrong, it be held up in customs, and those customs charges are not fun. So I figured it would be better to have an experience that I could remember for the same price, and then be very sneaky with how I got the hardware back home.
You just walk through customs wearing it, right? That's the go-to,
Yeah, I mean, so I had the box. I had the box in a black bag.
Yeah.
And I had my hoodie over it as well. And then my Apple Vision Pro was in a separate bag. So the hardware was away from the packaging. And yeah, I'm not too sure if I want to share this on the podcast, actually. But yeah, so it was an experience in the sense that, of course, you always get the applause. You always get the applause and the hurrahs from the staff at from the service people at every Apple store. But there were a lot of engineers that came out and applauded this monumental moment, really bringing something they've worked so hard for years, only being able to share that in June with their family.
Yeah.
And now I can only imagine what the last couple of weeks have been like for them to be able to finally, have the hardware in hand and give that experience over to, many different generations, right? From kids to people, to the matriarchs of their
launch,
families.
Were you able to meet people part of the Apple Vision Pro team? Were they introducing themselves? And
no, there wasn't so much of that.
Okay.
It was cool to, there were some people that said, yeah, I worked on this project, but can you imagine how many people worked on this project and how much of a team effort this is? And so that was really, really cool. And it was just nice to be able to, as I say, kind of join that applause. So they're applauding the doors opening and this product actually coming to market, and I'm applauding their work. And I think that was enough, actually, to warrant that 11-hour journey there.
Did the company store have a special section for Vision Pro try-ons like the New York store? I know some of the bigger stores have like a special redid section.
Yeah, so they had the sofas, which were beautiful, by the way, and I've only just finished redesigning at home, and I was like, oh, maybe I should have gone down this route. And that's always the case with Apple. But interestingly, where I thought, if you've ever been to the Apple Visitor Center before, there is like an extra set. There's basically 3 sections. You've got the store in the middle, and then at the front you've got Cafe Max, which you can get your coffee and your bagels. And then on the other side is an AR experience where you can take an iPad and look at Apple Park and lift the top of Apple Park and everything else. It's really, really cool. And I thought that they were going to use that section and repurpose that for the Apple Vision Pro try-ons. But actually what they did was they put the sofas in the middle of the store. So where you still have the big screen for the Today at Apple sessions, right in front of that was where the sofas were. And
you'd think the really, AR really section would work with Apple Vision Pro pretty soon.
Who knows? Maybe that's in the works.
So you got the 1 terabyte model, right? What other accessories and what light seal did you end up getting scanned for and going with?
Okay, so 25 wide for the light seal.
Yep, that's what I started with.
I got the and that's what I stuck with in the end. I did over the next day mess around with the W Plus and the W. And I had a problem with the W Plus in the sense of it was saying that I was now too far away. And so I ended up returning that. So that was a lot of fun. And
well, doesn't it comes with the W? It comes with the W and the W Plus, and you get a pick, which cushion, right?
Sure, but I tried the W Plus, and I thought, wow, this is a lot more comfortable. But then I was having problems with OpticID and everything else,
right.
and moved back. And in the end, I've been actually fine with W. I think whatever happens, it's going to take a few days for you to adjust.
Yeah.
And so that all got sorted. But I also have prescription inserts, which we talked back and forth on Mastodon in the DMs as to how I was going to go about this, because it was a big concern.
Yes.
But thankfully, John over at Mac Stories was able to find a way. He shared it with Federico.
Yeah.
Federico then shared it with me, and we're all happy.
There you go. This whole prescription nonsense here in America,
Well, the whole thing of having to have it signed off, but in a sense, it makes sense, right? Because it's a medical device as much as anything, and
yes, yes. I wish I could just give them diopters and. I'll know if it's right or not. I mean, and I think mine are a little bit too clear, actually. Like, I think the focal distance I was asking for was a bit too far for what it actually is in actuality. So it's fine, though. But it is super smart how, like, the lenses are QR code identified in the system. So if you had multiple sets of prescription lenses, and when you pop in a different set, it'll, in the UI, tell you, this is your -3 set, or this is your -4 set, which is super smart. And I guess it changes eye tracking depending on what set's in there as well, which is really interesting.
I only really noticed that when I started to get people to try it on.
Yeah.
Right, and started demoing to other people. How clever I think the eye tracking is, and just how quick everything is happening. Like I put the Apple Vision Pro just this weekend on my grandmother's head. She's 93, right?
Yeah, what was that like for her? Like, this is crazy to her, right?
So here's the funny thing, right? So we tested this. We put this on a number of family members, and the people that are like super addicted to their phones really struggled with it, right? They wanted to kind of get their thumb and forefinger out, and they were trying to pinch the icons, right, in that sense. And I was like, no, you're doing it with your eyes. My grandmother and my grandfather, they're 10 years apart. They're 83 and 93, respectively. My grandfather, who's got multiple sclerosis, he's lost a lot of vision in his right eye. And so he wasn't able to see the 3D in the immersive video, which is unfortunate. But he picked it up instantly in terms of the navigation, in terms of clicking things, and he was just up and away and doing things. Whereas, as I say, my father and his wife, they both tried it, and they struggled initially. I think the scrolling with the pretend that it's an invisible piece of string. I think that takes a little bit of getting used to for anyone jumping straight in. But with my grandmother, she is, first off, she's incredible because she'll take on anything that you throw at her, right?
Yeah.
So iPad, iPhone, HomePod, Apple Watch, she's got it all, right? And she uses it all. Putting the Apple Vision Pro on her, obviously she has a smaller head, so everything didn't fit perfectly. But we kind of jumped straight into the immersive video, and she was blown away. It was something that I still struggle to describe, and I can tell because the reaction's always the same, right? It's kind of looking around in amazement with your mouth open, with the occasional wow, this is wow, that's beautiful. This is it. It's an incredible technology, and if you think, someone of that age.
She was born in around about 1931. So you got to think, like, TVs weren't even around then. So she's gone from no TVs or screens at any kind to this. Yeah. Wild.
And then we did a little bit of the object inspection, right? And I was showing her like the Iron Man suit and these kind of things. Now,
did you try JigSpace with her?
I did not.
Okay.
That was a little bit. The interactive stuff was just a little bit maybe too much.
Because I was gonna say one of the fun things with JigSpace is just painting in your room. Have you tried that yet?
I have not.
Okay, it's wild. In JigSpace, it's designed to like probably annotate and stuff, but you can literally just like pinch and drag this like silly string around your whole house if you want to. It's great.
No, what I was doing was I was showing her because she designed dresses, and that was her work, and I was showing her kind of like how people are going to be able to design now and teach.
Yeah,
she used to teach at the London Royal College, and so, you know, being able to maybe see costumes and this kind of thing. And, you know, if you think about the film experience and the entertainment experience, which I know we're going to get into, the ability to maybe bring in the film props and almost kind of gamify the hours and the minutes that you put into watching your films and TV shows on streaming services. I'm really surprised, and maybe it's still a little bit early, but I'm really surprised that companies like, for example, Warner Discovery and Disney aren't taking props and things from their real-life studio tours, taking them out of their glass cages, 3D scanning them, and making them available for users. Once they've watched the film, they now have unlocked this model that they can inspect.
Yeah, can you imagine next generation iTunes extras that has like these 3D models? And I was showing a Mastodon how cool it'd be if environments could be tied to a movie purchase, where you download Lord of the Rings, or you're streaming Lord of the Rings from Apple TV and you're sitting in, you know, the Shire or something like that.
Oh, months ago I talked about this. Built a thread, I think over on X, and I think I put it a little bit on Mastodon as well. Just kind of going through all of the different films and the different settings, right? The one that I would love is Apocalypse Now, and to just kind of see a bit of an expansion of what we see in that, you know, that 16:9 or 20, you know, that frame. To see things kind of expand, and I've been playing around a little bit with that with photography as well, by having the video from Apple Vision Pro kind of like overlaid on top of the environment, the real life environment that you're watching the video.
Yeah. So tell me about the flight home, being one of the first in the world to be wearing this headset. Were people curious? Did they not care? Did you try to connect to the crappy Wi-Fi? How was trying to enter the portal with that?
So typically, the Wi-Fi did not work on the way back because there was a lot of turbulence.
Oh, I see.
Which meant that I had to wait a little while before being able to put Apple Vision Pro on.
You don't want to wear it while there's turbulence.
Absolutely, and it's not a clever thing to do.
No. One of the warnings with the new Light Seal, occasionally it'll be your eyes are too close to the displays. One of the warnings was this is bad because if you collide into something, that could be dangerous.
Sure. No, I think when it comes to wearing this in public, especially if there are people serving you, right? I think it's courtesy, good courtesy, to at least tell the person ahead of time, hey, I'm trying this. It's really, you know, it's cool, it's fascinating. I can see you, right?
Yeah.
And so therefore we can interact. Now, as you know, on any flight, you'll talk to one attendant and then they'll get called away, and then other people have got other jobs, right? So it took a little while until the message kind of relayed onto other people. But what I found out at the end of my flight was that I was one of like 6 on the flight doing the same thing. Right? So So it's that thing, isn't it? In terms of, okay, it's going to look really strange initially, and then it's just going to be a thing that is accepted, right? Very much like AirPods. When we first started wearing AirPods, could you talk to someone that wore AirPods? There was that question up in the air, and I think it's going to be the same with this. So one tip that I will give to anyone is flight mode isn't the same as airplane mode, right? Travel mode, right? And so when I initially booted up, all of my, we're traveling hundreds of miles per hour, right? All of my apps just kept floating away quickly, and therefore I couldn't use it. And it was like a race, really. The other thing was I didn't know how to get into travel mode. I didn't know if it was in Control Center or wherever. So I had to kind of figure this out as well. So it probably took me a good 30 minutes until I was able to kind of get everything steady and be able to time it all. So my big tip is, if you're about to get on a flight with this, make sure before you get on the flight or before the flight takes off that you put your Apple Vision Pro in travel mode.
One thing that visionOS 2 should totally have is when you enable airplane mode, it should ask you, do you also want to enable travel mode right now? That'd be a nice
absolutely
thing to do.
Because it makes sense, right? If you're in an airplane, you're probably traveling.
Yes.
You'd hope so.
You'd hope so. I mean, I never do the airplane mode, really. I just leave that stuff running. I'm a bad traveler in that way.
Like, from a social point of view, I think it's going to be something that's going to take a little bit of getting used to. I got skipped over dinner initially because people didn't want to disturb me, right? And one thing I wish is it breakout or breakthrough? It's breakthrough, right?
Breakthrough, yeah.
Yeah. So one thing I wish was that breakthrough would work where even if you're not fully immersed, if you've got a screen that is maybe covering a certain area, if someone walks through, that they're able to break through the screen.
Yeah.
Because they're not able to.
Right.
And therefore, it was a little bit clunky in terms of I was expecting them to be able to break through the screen, and they weren't able to. So even though I was talking to them and I knew they were there, I couldn't see their face.
Yeah, I am often at home double tapping the digital crown to just get rid of all screens so I can just see everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something I'm finding I'm doing quite a bit because, as you said, they don't break through screens all the time, or depending.
Yeah. So that was a bit of an issue. Eating with an Apple Vision Pro, you can get away with drinking.
It's doable. What I found is I like to put the screens lower, so like the delta between where my plate is and the screen, I'm not like trying to look up while. That's what I find is good to do there.
No. Eating plain food was an absolute disaster. I did make a bit of a mess.
Oh, no.
And then I took it off to be able to have my meal.
Did the headset get any food on it?
No.
Okay.
No. I was very careful. It was just barely any mess, to be fair.
Okay.
But it would have been awful if I would have tried to persist. And so
the tight quarters probably don't help with that scenario, because I have found that I'm eating, meals okay in the kitchen with the table and stuff, all right, wearing the headset, just fine. Have you not gotten to that level yet?
No.
Okay.
I think food and the headset are two things I'm not going to combine unless I'm either cooking or I'm snacking. So one of the big things when it comes to watching films, and probably one of the best things for flights, is, rather than a proper meal, if you're snacking, make sure in settings that you turn off the tracking for one of your hands.
Yes, you mentioned this
and
earlier.
therefore, and then use that hand for your snacks.
Yeah,
right?
I almost want like
the one thing you're not going to do on a flight, Tim, is throw popcorn up in the air like in the advert.
You'll not know,
and try and catch it in your mouth, which I'm terrible at.
I can't do that with the headset off. Yeah, absolutely
Yeah.
not. No. So Wi-Fi was a no-go here. You were using just the pass-through at times, and that was all right?
I was using a pass-through. I did get fully immersed in the Game of Thrones immersive environment through the Max app, which I thought was really cool. I downloaded so many films and TV shows, which I gotta say is the thing that has always been missing from tvOS for me. For anyone that knows,
you can't download anything since the original model. Yeah,
right, exactly. Well, even the original model you streamed from your PC.
But you could download. I was pretty positive because I had one. It acted like an iPod where you could sync stuff to it as well.
Did you jailbreak, Tim?
Well, I did, but it did that before,
I think you did. No.
I could have sworn it did that before, too. But maybe not.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I threw a 1 terabyte drive on my Apple TV. It was great.
Yeah, the 1 terabyte edition of the Apple Vision Pro, I think, is a must-have, purely because I didn't know what the download limits would be. Right, and there really doesn't seem to be any
something interesting
download
that
limits.
You discovered is Disney Plus is giving you really good download sizes, better than Apple is. As best as I can tell, Apple is providing you double resolution from iOS, which was 1080p. So that's either 1440p or 2K downloads. And the pure 2K? Okay. And then Disney Plus is giving you the full 4K download. So like Avatar's 2 is over 20 gigabytes in 3D versus it's 13 gigabytes on the Apple TV app.
Yeah, but then they're also using like new codecs that are approved for Dolby Vision for the downloads as well, and everything else. So I think Disney are really on top of things when it came to the Vision Pro launch.
So I think in a lot of movies, you won't notice the quality for the download, but like instantly, I was trying to watch Blade Runner 2049, the download, and it opens with that little thin text, and I instantly could see that is not nice and crisp like it should. And it's just a shame that the downloads from Apple TV app just for some movies are not going to be great.
I haven't necessarily had that issue in terms of that they're not great, but I can definitely tell the difference. Like Avatar, The Way of Water, right? One of the big things that I feel like hardly anyone's talked about is the ability of Apple Vision Pro to be able to do multiples of 24, 48. Of
24. So you have 48 and 96.
Yeah. Right. But basically do multiples of these different frame rates. And therefore we are able to recreate what James Cameron wants with the 48 frames per second.
And The Hobbit,
some of the scenes
I
on
believe,
Avatar.
also does this high frame rate version.
Yeah, but I don't think it's available right now in the TV app at a higher frame rate.
Okay, it's just regular 3D. Okay.
Yeah, it's just regular 3D. And then, and hopefully other people kind of really take these things on board beyond Disney. My 3D viewing has been a little bit limited.
Just because I know you're not a super 3D fan like other people might be. Is that part of it, or?
No, I mean, so the biggest issue has been the whole Movies Anywhere kerfuffle.
Yes.
And I had, so in the lead up to this, I built a database up of everything that is ever released in 3D, right? From theatrical to what's released on disc to what's come to streaming initially through like Vudu, who are now Fandango at home as of a couple of days ago. And so
Movies Anywhere has an official visionOS app, which is kind of nifty. No 3D in that app quite yet, but they have an app.
Yeah, and
yeah,
it's not great.
No,
in all honesty, but it's another option. But the issue is if you purchase 4K movies through other retailers that are Movies Anywhere compatible, they'll come through to the TV app. but the TV app doesn't recognize it as an Apple purchase, and therefore you don't get 3D.
Yes.
Right? And right now, as of the time we're recording, there is no way to be able to either upgrade or repurchase that film in the majority of circumstances.
Yeah. I'm in the position where companies have relisted movies and they're just like, you need to buy this again. And I've had to do that a couple times, yeah.
But that's nothing to do with the 3D at all. That is literally just to do with different distribution. That's been an issue that's been going on in the TV app for years.
Yeah.
Years.
In the past with that issue, you would still have it in your library and all that good stuff, and you'd still have the 4K, whatever version. But now the issue is popping its head up because that relisting means the 3D version's only in the newer listing, which is a bummer, which I guess I probably bought it at 4K at the time, so it's that's why that wasn't a thing.
Well, like I had a Paramount redeem of the great film. You got to check it out. It's called Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters.
I have fond memories of seeing this in Hollywood when I lived there at the time. I've got some nostalgia for that movie.
Okay.
Yes.
There's sarcasm on my part, to be fair. But I bought the downloadable code, right?
Yeah.
Ready for it. And even though I redeemed it directly through iTunes, Paramount did relist it. And so now if I want it, I'm glad to have 2 copies of this film in my library. And I don't think I can do it to myself, Tim.
No, I don't blame you. I bought the Shrek Quadrilogy Trilogy bundle again because I had Shrek 2 was enabled for 3D, but Shrek 1, the one I really wanted, was not. So it's like, let me just get the bundle and get the other ones for 3D as well.
Going forward, though, how do you think Apple are going to go about this?
I mean, new purchases, of course, will have the 3D, right?
Mm-hmm. But how do you do a new purchase?
I always do it through iTunes Store / Apple TV Store. I've never been a Blu-ray disc redeemer of codes kind of person. Or
no, but okay. So this is the thing, right?
Yeah.
If you've bought it through another store, there is no way of you buying it again.
Right.
You're locked out.
Yeah.
Right? You're locked out. So what do you think Apple's solution is going to be in the long run to being able to
hopefully they allow the Movies Anywhere thing to unlock the full version, which would be nice. Hopefully that happens.
I mean, I've still got HD titles that I'd love to be able to upgrade in 4K on the TV.
Yeah.
Apple don't give me the option.
They don't.
But Microsoft do, Voodoo do, Amazon do. Literally, Apple have the only store that doesn't allow you to upgrade.
Huh. Yeah, because it's part of Apple's, I guess, philosophy. If you're working all in-house, you buy the HD one. That means you also get the 4K and 3D one when they become available, unless the company's relisted, which they are doing quite frequently, which is just the most fun. Because I saw Aliens got a 4K restoration. I own Aliens, but it's a new version that I have to buy, evidently.
And
for that.
Let me just say, stick to your original Aliens.
Yeah, the HD one is
don't go
better.
do not go with
I've heard that gets rid of film grain in this restoration, right?
It's plasticky, it's really horrible to watch.
Which is interesting. You'd think James Cameron would supervise. Is this what he prefers, or is this some studio having a hand?
I don't know. It felt a little bit like it had been done by AI, but I don't know that for a fact.
Yeah.
But it didn't look like someone had been meticulously going over frame by frame to restore this.
Okay. So I want to dive a bit into ergonomics of computing. And the way this manifests here is, you've got, with desktop computers, you have your keyboard and mouse, you're sitting at a desk, and that's very nice, ergonomically speaking. When you start to move away from a desk setup, though, for me, a baby sleeping on my lap or whatnot, it's can be dangerous to be holding an iPad and hopefully doesn't slip and drop. Tried to use a keyboard or anything like that. It's kind of tricky in that situation. Apple Vision Pro lets you use a computer in environments that, in a large screen format especially, that would be very tricky in certain situations. And I know you spent some time at hospitals for a condition you have, and I'd imagine this form factor in many ways could be advantageous towards that kind of situation. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think so. So I had a blood clean the other week for a blood condition that I have, which means that I clot a lot, right? And so this is quite a frequent thing, unfortunately. And so what that means is, to resolve that, I have to spend 7 hours kind of sat still. And I can't really use my iPhone or anything like that, because you've got to have your hands, your arms kind of at least, they can't be together, because you've got one arm pumping out blood, one arm pumping in blood. It sounds
very
a whole thing.
Fun experience, yeah.
Oh, it's so much fun, Tim. You should try it.
Right.
And so this time, having to have this procedure done, I decided to wear my Apple Vision Pro and try that and just see how that worked. And I just thought it would be like a fun thing.
Sure.
Now, I didn't take any like screenshots or anything, because there are other people having treatment.
Sure, privacy concerns
in the room as well. One of the things that I just thought was incredible was the tracking, right, of your hands and how subtle you can be with your movements. So your hands can literally be at your side, and you can just do a very subtle pinch with your thumb and forefinger, and very subtle movements to go up and down with that invisible piece of string to be able to scroll. So like for general, just kind of scrolling, being entertained, checking out social media, this kind of thing is fine. And then I'd been using my voice if I wanted to do like a social media post, and then I'd clean that up afterwards. So that's kind of how I've been getting over a 7-hour ordeal, and watching films on it as well. So, yeah, that's that. I mean, I got some strange looks again, but once you explained what was going on and they could see, they were more inquisitive than kind of like scathing at the fact that you would even dare to do this,
Right. And so the hospital staff was okay with you doing this, and you just put it on before they get started and you're all set kind of thing, and you're plugged into power and all that.
Yeah. And that was pretty much it. One thing I really love about this, I don't know if you've tried it yourself, is have you tried kind of bringing the windows closer to you and then kind of interacting with each window as its own like iPad interface?
I've done that before, not often, but it is kind of cool.
Okay.
Yeah, I think visually I would start to get a headache if I do that too much. I think I like them a bit further away from that aspect. Something I didn't realize initially was iPhone apps can opt into it even if they don't have an iPad version. Have you seen that yet?
I have not.
Yeah.
I have not.
So if there's an iPhone app that you want, they have the ability to opt in, and it's a fun little window size class to have in visionOS. This little, and it has the same rotation button if the app supports rotation. Only if the app supports rotation. Not all apps do for iPhone. And that's been kind of cool to discover. That iPhone
what apps are doing that right now?
To be honest, I saw that it could be done and just downloaded some like pretty trashy whatever just app to just see that it could be done. I forget which one it was though, quite honestly.
But if you want an iPhone in your environment like that virtually, Bezel is incredible.
It is, yeah. And something I was very happy to see, Pocket Cast, my podcast app of choice, originally opted out, but now has opted in. So that's been awesome. Yeah. So, environments. Was that something you were doing much in the hospital to try to like get away from things during those 7 hours?
No, because what I'm finding is unless like I'm sat down in a particular seat, like for example in the airplane where I tried environments for a little bit, if you're in public, you kind of still want to be aware of what's happening around you.
You really do.
Where I have found environments really, really helpful, it's actually been a bit of a money saver for me. When I'm trying to do the podcast notes for Magic Rays of Light or anything like that, I try to kind of get out and just go to the local coffee shop for a change of scenery. I am now going to Mount Hood and places like that, to really just kind of mellow out, because I think beyond the visual aspect of it, the different sound effects that you have, like the echoes on your voice, the different atmospherics that you get from like birds chirping and this kind of thing really transports you away. I wish that the theatre was also an environment in which I could actually get into and do some work, because that's kind of what I do at home as well with my theatre. So I hope that comes, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the environments that are coming soon. I'm not sure about the colours.
I've not used those much at all, no. Yeah, they're interesting though. I don't know.
The spring one, which is like purple and has this kind of soothing sound over it, right? And I think rain sounds. That's kind of cool, and I've been using that to shoot some photos where I'm, as I mixing stills from films and environments. I've been using that as like a filter, but beyond that, I don't really have much of a use for those. What is your favorite environment right now? What's your kind of like your ranking for environments?
Mount Hood is great just for like the movie theater version of that, which is unique to that app, environment, I should say. I really like Joshua Tree, I must say. That's one of my just favorites. It's a very chill place to be.
I like the white sand environment. I'm not sure what the actual name of it is.
Okay.
But you know what I'm talking about.
I thought that was a coming soon one, I thought.
No. This is one that's available right now.
Okay.
And what I like about it is if you're watching a film, the reflections, they're still there, but they kind of just sink into the sand. And so
I see.
If you're watching a film with high contrast, it helps with the
glare.
Pancake glare.
Yeah, okay.
You get so that's been pretty good.
Okay.
To be fair,
you have to try that out.
For limiting that.
The Mount Hood, I do like the water reflection, but some scenes are a bit jarring with the reflection, I must say.
Sure.
And I also must say, I think the Mount Hood environment for movies is quite the power suck. I notice like the battery sometimes won't fully get charged up if I'm in the Mount Hood, because I think it's doing a lot of processing to make that happen.
Sure. I like Mount Hood. Honestly, just going into Mount Hood and staring at the stars. Have you, in all of your time wearing Apple Vision Pro since launch, have you fallen asleep yet? Because I have fallen asleep in that environment, and it's been great.
Yes, I have. Not long, maybe 5 minutes or so, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And last night I was in bed and watching Curb Your Enthusiasm with Mount Hood. So you're looking at the stars with the HBO Max app behind it. So that's kind of nice, having the stars behind either screen like that.
It's really funny, actually, you say that, because one of the first things that I watched in full on Apple Vision Pro was the premiere episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. I'm a massive Larry David fan.
Right.
And that's the series scene was just like the perfect
wonderful
intro for me.
I knew the new season was coming. I didn't know when. I saw in my Up Next on Apple TV, it's like, oh crap, it's happening. Yes, here we are.
Yeah.
And I'm enjoying the season so far, so we'll see how it goes. Anyways, okay. Apps, visionOS native apps. Outside of entertainment, are there any that are you gravitating towards, like getting your show notes ready for Magic Rays of Light? Do you use Apple Notes? Do you use a different app for that? What all are you using these days?
Okay, so I always use Apple Notes.
Okay.
I find as long as we don't go too crazy on the linkage, Devon and I are good, and it doesn't crash. But some weeks, there's a lot for us to cover, and therefore it has a few problems.
Because the links turn into these like embedded like photos, right? And that can probably get pretty big.
It's not even that. It just seems to be links in general. It just doesn't like too many of them.
Okay.
So, that happens. But I've got a few visionOS app recommendations. Home UI is incredible. I've been putting all of my different light switches on the actual light switches, which I don't know if that's the point, but it works out for me quite well.
So something I am finding is I reset my windows frequently enough where leaving stuff permanently somewhere just doesn't make sense for me at this point. So I'm not sure if that's a thing you do, or are you in a one floor kind of house setup, or are you good?
No.
Yeah.
No, I live in a 3-story house.
Okay.
And the thing that I've been using it for most is because a lot of my Apple Vision Pro usage is in the evening.
Okay.
Right, because it is mainly being used for entertainment. Although I have used it for notes and that kind of thing, paired with a keyboard.
Yes,
right?
very essential.
Which we'll get into. But in terms of the apps, so Home UI, the main reason was to be able to kind of quickly turn on and off my Hugo light on my bedside, because I have to keep the light on to a degree if I'm using Apple Vision Pro at night, right? There are IR sensors there, but they're not perfect.
It is very funny, though. When I'm home alone, as I am now, I'm that weirdo that has like all their lights on at night with the headset on, because it's a better experience with the lights on.
Well, I quickly got over this by buying a IR illuminator light. So I've got extra IR light now, which helps the Apple Vision Pro work.
So the tracking is much better
with the lights off.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Right. So Home UI is incredible. The other one for screenshots is Level Headed, which got a 1.1 update this past week, which is just incredible, from Charlie Chapman. What else? Crouton.
Yes.
Now, one of the things that I've been using Apple Vision Pro for is if I'm watching a show, but I know I've got to get dinner done, right? I'm taking the screen with me and I'm wearing it whilst I'm cooking.
Yes.
Right. And I'm able to set all the different timers and everything else. I think the app is incredible, and I think Devon's done an incredible job there in importing that into visionOS, and it's just done so well, being able to set all of the different timers and everything else. I don't necessarily use the recipes from the app. I haven't gone down that route, but just that simplification of being able to do that and then literally have this screen wherever I want. Of course, there's rumors of, a HomePod that could work really well in the kitchen with a nice screen running tvOS and everything else. But I think going forward, Apple Vision Pro.
Yeah, I did try cooking with it once. It's hard with the meat to know how red it is in the headset. That was the only thing I noticed. Outside of that,
that's where you need the time. You just need the timers. From Crouton. You'll be fine.
Yeah. Something I noticed in your setup there is you're using the Apple Vision Pro packaging, the little plastic stand thing, as your little stand for the Vision Pro, which I really like.
Yes.
People have been buying these like 3D printed stuff, but you're just using the thing that they gave you.
Mainly because I'm waiting for a nice still stand that is similar to what Apple have in store. I'm begging anyone to make this happen. I will pay.
Just sneak one out of the Apple Store, that little wooden stand. Surely they won't lose those.
The tray.
The tray,
the tray's
yes.
Nice, right? The tray was nice, but I want something that really shows off.
The display case,
all its
like
glory.
at the store. I see. Yeah, the display unit. Yeah. See, I always my Vision Pro, when it's not in use, is always in the travel case because I have a cat and I guess she's a toddler technically. She's a 1-year-old. So I've living living creatures that would probably destroy it if I just left it out like that. Yes. But anyways, iPad compatible apps. Are there any that you are using quite a bit of outside of the entertainment ones?
Not really.
Not really. Okay. Okay.
Not really. The apps that I'm using iPad compatible: Peacock, Paramount Plus, Prime Video, which is now working as of today. It had an issue where if you were looking at the screen, because you have the controls embedded in the screen, you'd get like a white square, and so nothing was watchable. I had the whole of Mr. and Mrs. Smith downloaded, ready to go for my 11-hour flight, and you could not watch any of them. So I've delayed it up until today.
Yeah, I've heard that's a good show. Yeah.
Yeah. I think because, of course, with iPad Pros, you're so productive with iPad apps. I found when the M Macs came and the M chips came, I really kind of diverted back away from the iPad to the Mac.
You're a MacBook user, or do you have a desktop as well?
I have a M1. Sorry, I have an M2 Mac Mini.
Okay.
And I've got an M1 MacBook Pro X,
the XDR or whatever. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, the Ultra.
Yeah. Okay. And that's been a good experience connecting and bringing those Macs into the Vision Pro.
It has. I haven't tried it with the Mac Mini yet, to be perfectly honest with you, because that is really part of my podcasting setup, more than anything else. But the screen, bringing the screen up from the MacBook Pro has been really, really helpful.
I've been looking for just a headless MacBook Air. I just want the base with no screen. I saw Mac Stories post about this. I can only find these really old ones that look like in rough shape.
Yeah. So Federico linked to Luke Miani's video, right? Luke Miani is such a cool guy. You should try and get him on this podcast or even iPad Pros.
Yeah.
I met him when I met him during WWDC. Like a couple of nights beforehand. As soon as I touched down, I drove down, met up with Sam and John and Luke and those guys, and he's fantastic. I'm also kind of tempted to look for a second-hand MacBook
because it could be old
with a bust screen.
I think this would work.
No, just with a bust screen.
Oh, with busted screen,
right, with a busted screen, get it super cheap, and now I've got a headless accessory. Because I'm with Federico on this. I think that is the way to go.
The Magic Trackpad 2 is way too big for any kind of portable use. It's great on a table, but like on your lap, like I want that laptop slab, you know?
Oh, absolutely. And then you've got the palm rejection on the Mac trackpad as well.
Once we upgrade one of the Mac laptops in our house, I will definitely be inheriting that, and because it seems like the best input device, even if you're not even using the Mac part of it.
Well, but I think this is the thing, right? So iPad has always been for me like a secondary device. One that complements quite well. And what I'm doing at the moment is when I'm trying to get work done, I've got my Mac window in the middle. And then I've got my iPad apps and different apps around me through visionOS. And also I'm using Apple Vision Pro also in conjunction with real life screen. So I've got home cinema set up. So I'll have the actual home cinema, but then I'll have a sequel on the side to be able to mark off what I've watched.
Because I would not want to watch anything through the pass through because the quality is lesser.
It is, but it's worked out pretty well for me. I think if you're trying to get work done and notes done, and that's the way you want to go, and maybe you've got someone beside you,
I see,
watching something, right?
Gotcha.
It's worked pretty well for that, and I think there was a few bugs I was having the file when I was out in California, and early in the morning we were watching the Manchester United game, and in the meantime, I'm able to watch on the normal screen, and then get everything pre-downloaded and notes.
Yeah, and that makes sense if you're in a shared space you're watching a show with somebody. That makes total sense from that angle.
Have you SharePlayed anything yet?
Not yet. That works well.
That has, yeah. It's worked really well for me. Share playing between that and the Apple TV, I haven't yet tried.
Okay.
Although I understand it's possible. The one thing I wish is, and kind of going back to the entertainment and the viewing experience, the speakers are really, really good.
They really are.
The speaker pods.
I was going back and forth whether AirPods or the speaker pods sound better. I can't tell sometimes. Sometimes I prefer the speakers. Other times I want the headphones in. Do you have a preference at this point? Which one's the first class experience? Which one's secondary?
So right now, I prefer the AirPods Pro USB Type-C, the second gen, right? I prefer those. And I'm also having to adjust where the screen is in relation to me. If I want that direct sound, because it does something really interesting with spatial audio in that sense as well. But as someone that has spent a lot of money on a true Atmos sound system, the thing that I wish I could do is get the audio out of my sound system and just wear the hardware.
Right. You'd have to maybe
have the video.
You have to SharePlay from an Apple TV. Mute your Apple. Yeah, I don't know.
And the thing is, I've got an Apple TV, right? So just send the audio to the Apple TV. I'll get it through all the different channels through Atmos, right? But let me use the headset for the video.
Yeah.
That would be my prime choice, but it's just not a choice right now.
No. Yeah, and they're very finicky about what you can even hook up. Bluetooth audio does not work. It has to be AirPods or Beats. That's very particular about what actually works Bluetooth-wise.
Have you been connecting any HDMI devices?
Not yet. I know there's Castaway, and there's these NDI encoders that I'm very tempted to, my PS3 I could hook up to my Vision Pro through an NDI encoder.
So, the NDI encoders, they're expensive.
They are, very. It's $500
I would say,
upwards.
I would say, even though there is the odd frame drop from Castaway,
that's the way they go for now.
Finn Voorhees' app is insane, right? It's so well done. I on a Sunday will have my PlayStation 5 streaming downstairs to my room to Apple Vision Pro. Right, I'm getting next to no lag on my input. I'm able to have competitive games, and I've got one screen above that with the live football game playing. I've got the live scores for a Safari on one side. I've got the news ticker just below there.
Isn't that a great app, the news ticker app?
Oh, honestly, this whole setup is amazing, but it is very solo.
Yes,
right?
It is. Yes. So the PS5 is on a different level of your house. Is the Bluetooth controller direct connected to the PS5 and that's working fine through your ceiling? And
yeah.
Okay. Because my PS5 would be 2 floors away from where I'd want to use it. So I'm not I have to test if that Bluetooth range would work at all. So we'll see.
Yeah, you should be good. I think you should be fine.
Okay.
But that's how I'm doing it.
Is that way you get the haptics too, being direct connected to the PS5?
Is wired and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I want to play the Resistance trilogy on PS3 at some point, and this could be a great opportunity to use Castaway and do it that way. Yeah. So we'll see.
Castaway, Tim. Castaway.
I'll try it. It's a great name. It really is.
It is.
And then you mentioned the news ticker app. I'm loving this new category of little utility apps. There's like these status board apps that you can put the weather, time, and battery indicator. Even OmniFocus, the beta. I'm not sure if you tried the beta of OmniFocus. They're very flexible with their window sizes, which I love. So their forecast view, which is like the little like week ahead kind of thing, each day has a little. You can make that a super wide and narrow app, kind of like the news ticker. And have OmniFocus as like, the forecast view, super wide and narrow. So I love all these little utility apps that we're starting to get here.
Yeah, Daily Peak, I think, is my favorite right now. Because you get a countdown of everything that's going on, which is really, really handy if you are that, that on schedule,
yes.
Which I very rarely am.
My calendar's never full enough where some of these utility apps are like just a big empty block. It's like, nothing's going on my calendar of the day.
But yeah, no, it's very cool.
Any special volumetric apps that you found yourself using? I'm not using a bunch of these at the moment.
Again, not really.
Yeah.
Like for me, some of the experiences that I've thought were really, really well done. There's a demo in the MLB app right now, where when you're watching a baseball game, you can see where the throws are going. Can you tell I'm not a baseball fan?
Yeah.
The
And you see the players where they're on the stats are there. It's pretty well done.
And so I think those kind of things are going to really change the way presentations for sports. And so, if we're talking like volumetric in that sense.
Right, okay. Yeah.
Box. The game Box, or is it the Box?
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about. It's the ones with that has chess, and Battleship is my favorite of those.
No. That's the board game.
Okay.
Thing, right?
Yeah.
No, the Box is this really like you pop bubbles and everything.
Oh, yes, that's the $20 black box or whatever it's called. Yeah,
black box. That's it. It's insane. Have you tried it?
I need to buy it still. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That is honestly, put that next on your list because there is a reason why Apple are really promoting that and putting it
well
at
done.
the front of the store.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I think it blows me away. It puts a smile on my face that I got the very first time I tried Apple Vision Pro.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to give that a shot. It's funny. I tried. I put on my PSVR 2 again after being in the Vision Pro for like a week and a half to finish Resident Evil 4 VR, and it was amazing. Just the display quality. It seems like I broke my PSVR 2. It just doesn't look nearly as good as it used to. But the FOV was still better in PSVR 2, which was noticeable to me. But the display quality was like, oh wow, the text and just the UI overall was just like not as good. But RE4 VR still amazing in PSVR 2, and those hand controllers would love some kind of support for that in Apple Vision one day.
Are you a little bit disappointed that Death Stranding didn't make its way over to Apple Vision Pro?
Very. Like, that seemed like such a perfect game for Vision Pro. You throw up an environment, the Joshua Tree would seem like a natural fit. You're in the middle of the desert with Death Stranding, and pair a DualSense to your Vision Pro. It seems like the perfect game as like standalone experience. It's so sad. Like the Resident Evil games aren't there as well, which is a bummer.
Do you think it's just too intensive with everything else that's going on in terms of just the OS and the environment and tracking and everything else?
I don't think so, right? It's an M2. This thing runs on M1s. On phones, even, right? Is this a phone game as well? I thought it was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's on the Pros anyway.
Yeah, it's got to be able to run. Like, I want to look into if there's a way to get that thing on there. But yeah, hopefully they enable it one day after they have some time to test it further and all that. Another kind of like pro tip in using the Apple Vision Pro I discovered just last night was the camera user interface. I thought I had to stare at the word video and tap to switch it from photo to video. I've been doing that for 2 weeks now, trying to look at video and then tap. I discovered last night, you just tap. You can look anywhere you want, and it just toggles between the two modes. And I was just delighted to find that out, because sometimes it was taking me a while to switch over the video, and you can just tap, and it toggles back and forth.
I mean, the more you use something, the more you get to know it, right?
Yes.
And I'm interested to know from someone that loves film and loves creativity, do you see Apple Vision Pro as being a actual medium, an immersive video being an actual medium that people like you and I can jump into and create from? Because the first person view I found really compelling. I was just going down the corridors of my friend's apartment complex, and I was blown away.
So my daughter's on a little trip with my wife, and I was rewatching some stuff I took during the daylight with her on my lap, just like playing and having a bottle and stuff, and it was wild, just like how present it brought me back to that moment. She doesn't really notice the headset, as far as I can tell. Like, she's not trying to touch it. The wire's the only thing she's sometimes like curious about, but she's like, doesn't mind it seemingly at all. Like, she'll try to grab my phone more than she would my headset or whatever. And like, I'll do the thing where I'll have my I'll put my hands up as a little circle or whatnot, and she'll put her head through it, trying to look through and see my eyes, and she does that with the headset on too. It's kind of adorable. But the 3D spatial videos are just out of this world. I will do it with the iPhone, but the Vision Pro ones are that much better, I think.
I thought it was really funny how, when the initial presentation happened and you had a father taking a video of his kids, right, and the kind of the clap back that came from that.
Yeah.
I actually think wearing this and recording, I actually think you're more present in the moment than you are holding up your phone.
And my hands are free, and it does feel like I'm just looking at her, capturing what I'm seeing, and it's awesome having your hands to interact with. The other night, my cat was being a goofball, trying to dive into my cup, so I was able to hold the cup while capturing it, and I could not do that with my phone. So, you're able to capture things you would not be able to if your hands were occupied, for sure.
Yeah, and I just think also with the phone, you've always got like that possibility of a distraction. The phone's in your hand, right?
Yes.
So once I've recorded now, quickly, let me just check my notifications on social media. You don't really have that with Apple Vision Pro. And obviously the big kind of drawback right now is the form factor and it feeling a little bit alien, so to speak, to a lot of people. But I've just thought, in use, actually recording and capturing people and still being able to talk with them and interact and actually be part of the moment, that in practice this works out a lot better than recording spatial video on your phone.
Yeah, totally agree.
Just not just in terms of quality, but in terms of actually being in the moment and living. I'm seeing a lot of kind of loved ones not really be there, not be present in moments because of their devices. And I think if they can kind of sort out the form factor of this technology, that's I think the solution to that long-term issue that so many people that were behind the development of iPhone are now kind of worrying about.
And it's a cool experience on day one. Only curious to see how it improves going forward, So 2 weeks into Apple Vision Pro, how are you finding living with the day-to-day? Any quirks and things you didn't realize on day one that you're now starting to get a better grasp of? You mentioned the accessibility feature to turn off hand tracking at times.
Yeah, or at least for one hand, right?
Yes.
I have found it really, really... honestly, I'm still blown away every time I put it on, right? And I think most days I get 6 to 11 hours. I think 11 hours is the most I've had in a single day. I find myself to be a lot more productive, even in terms of really wanting to watch a show or something, because we get through a lot of screeners for the Mac Stories podcast.
Yeah. You get less distracted, I'd imagine, watching something versus like, let me look at this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, the Screeners app is an iPad app, but it still works well. You're able to really allow yourself to be immersed and be taken away. So, yeah, I mean, the first thing I want to talk about very quickly is pass-through. Pass-through is incredible in terms of the latency. The quality, especially in low light, needs some vast improvement, I think.
I do question why Apple decided the battery pack should be on the left side versus the right. It seems that all my chargers and stuff, they're kind of to the right of me. So that's been like the biggest like weird design thing I've noticed. Like, why left versus right for this thing, for the battery pack?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, you're talking about the battery pack, the weight. The weight for me, I would have much preferred it, and I'm not too sure why they didn't go down this route, and maybe it was something that came a little too further on in development, is I wonder why the computer wasn't put into your pocket.
Yeah.
Because the size of the battery, I don't think is by accident. That is the size of an iPhone. And I think that's where we're going to probably end up in the future. Obviously, there are a few quirks. Again, breakthrough not being... unless you're fully immersed, breakthrough doesn't really work with screens and objects, like virtual objects in visionOS. So that's something I'd like to see. Beyond that, though, I've been pretty impressed. I just wish there were more, at least when it comes to the entertainment apps. I wish there would be more visionOS apps instead of the iPad. But we are literally 2 weeks in. And I think my biggest takeaway from my whole experience in this is that I feel like I'm living in the future.
Yeah.
Right?
It is wild. Like walking around with the battery in your pocket and kind of forgetting it's there at times. And the screens are just paper thin as you're walking and looking next to the screen. It does like feel like I'm in the future. There's just these floating screens, these TVs that are impossibly thin, and you can like look to the side of it, and it's just it's wild. So like living in the future, it very much feels like this is, a potential future of computing, especially as the form factor changes.
Yeah. As I say, for me, it feels very much like living in the future. I think 2 weeks in, so many people had so many thoughts, and I have lots of thoughts that I'm still, ruminating on and trying to work out, and those thoughts continuously change. But the one thing I will say is that whilst we can kind of see where this is leading, I think something that's lost by the tech community and tech journalism in general is the idea of actually living in the moment and really appreciating what's in front of us, as opposed to what we hope to see in 10 to 20 years' time, which, don't take today for granted, because tomorrow may never come.
Yeah.
Right. And as much as we want to be futurists and really kind of get an idea of what's coming and what we hope is coming, we may, unfortunately, some of us aren't going to be able to see that future. And so one thing, and I think really the point I'd want to leave this conversation on, is that people appreciate what's in front of them now far more, I think, and take it in and really appreciate the journey that we're all in this kind of new paradigm.
And it's really fun being on a 1.0 OS, just like and seeing it grow and morph into what it will be 10 years from now, you know? So what have been your favorite 3D movie experiences? Like, what stuff would you recommend people that have this to try? The immersive stuff's out there as well.
Okay, so the biggest thing and the biggest realization for me when it comes to watching films is that I was really looking forward to the big screen format features, right? What I've found is that I've fallen in love with 4:3 content all over again, the square, because you don't have those big black bars on either side like you do on a conventional TV, right? And so The Wizard of Oz is incredible. Creature from the Black Lagoon is insane, and Dial M for Murder, even though it's not in the 4:3 ratio, is mind-boggling to me. And I'm really enjoying the comfort watching. So I don't necessarily think it's like the razzle-dazzle of these big blockbusters that you're going to see, you know, at the forefront of the 3D banners, right? I'm sure lots of people are going to be rewatching Dune with the sequel coming very, very soon. But it's the older films when it comes to 3D. But I think in general, actually, older films and older TV really shine on this. And I think that's something that people are either going to overlook to their detriment or never experience. So, yeah, they're my premium.
Yeah, I hope that like Seinfeld and other 90s sitcoms that are now available in widescreen become easier to get in 4:3, because it can be hard to get the original aspect ratio sometimes for some of that stuff. And I do want to revisit Zack Snyder's cut to the Justice League in 4:3 black and white. That seems like that could be a fun time.
A long time, but a fun time.
Indeed. Well, thank you so much for your time today. This has been a great chat, and we'll have to have you on again to dive more fully into the entertainment world as that expands and more 3D releases start to come out, as I hope Prometheus makes the cut one of these days here.
Oh, I mean, Terminator 2, Judgment Day, Director's Cut, we need to see that. I would love to see Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, which I saw in 3D back in the day.
Titanic was in theaters for like a week in 3D that they redid. Yeah.
And with HFR as well, so high frame rate support. There's so much that could come. We have to see what the studios are going to do and what they agree to. But I also heard in this week leading up to the BAFTA Awards, I was around London and I heard a lot of execs talking about 3D. So I do think that this 3D presentations are back in the forefront of many people's minds. And that, to me, is exciting. Yeah. But immersive video is going to be... that's the future.
Yeah,
that's the future.
I want like an episode of Mythic Quest to be shot in immersive, because they do experimental stuff with Mythic Quest. I would love to see them take a stab at like a 20-minute episode of something, or 30 minutes or something. Well, anyways, thank you so much for your time. We'll have to do another chat as more and more stuff is coming up. Where can people follow you online and check out your awesome podcast?
Okay, well, you can check out myself and Devon, our Apple TV podcast, Magic Rays of Light. We recently joined the Mac Stories family of podcasts and the team over there with Federico and John. You can find me, Sigmund, at Screen Time. You can find me on Mastodon, on Twitter or X, whatever it's called these days, along with threads. So wherever you want to interact, I'll be there. I'm sure all of those links will be in the show notes. Once again, you can check us out every week talking Apple TV and the overarching world, from production to the tvOS experience to now visionOS, over on Magic Rays of Light.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Well, that was my discussion with Sigmund. My thanks to Sigmund for his time recording. My thanks to you for your time, attention, tuning in. You can support the podcast over at visionpros.fm/Patreon. My great thanks to everyone that supports the show. With that, I'll talk to everyone again real soon.